today we're going to show you guys how to make chocolate truffles at home so you can enjoy them this Easter weekend with your family or by yourself and have a sweet Easter.
Yeah, these are little nuggets of love and happiness. They're truly absolutely delicious and they're totally vegan. So we're going to show you guys how to make them three ways. One way is going to be with a polycarbonate mold. Another way is going to be with a silicone mold, and if you don't have a silicone mold, you can also use a silicone ice cube tray, and we're going to show you how to do them rolled. So
you should be able to make them at home no matter what.
Yeah.
So enjoy.
So the first thing we're going to do in the truffle making process today is prepare our ganache. The ganache is going to be the filling of our truffles today, and for this particular ganache we decided to make it with our 75% dark chocolate and plant milk. You can use any plant milk you'd like. You can use soy, oat, coconut, almond. You can even use coffee or water or champagne or wine, any liquid of your choice. Of course, it will affect the flavor of the ganache. You want to make sure that the liquid and the chocolate is really well incorporated. Whisk it all together and then let it set at least overnight before using. Okay, so first things first, we're going to melt our couverture. We're going to melt it in the microwave at 10 to 15 seconds at a time until it's melted so that we make sure the chocolate doesn't lose its temper. Once the chocolate is melted, we're going to pour it into the polycarbonate mold, into all of the cavities. Make sure that each one is nice and full. Once you've filled them, scrape off any excess chocolate, and then we're going to turn it upside down and empty the mold of the chocolate so that only a nice outer shell is left. I like to put parchment paper down so that any chocolate that I lose can be easily reincorporated into the bowl once it's set again, and that way you're really not losing any chocolate at all. So scrape the mold, and you just want to leave a perfect thin layer of chocolate on the outer part of each cavity. Making sure that there's not excess chocolate on the mold is going to make it easier when we close them. And there we go, perfect shiny mold. I like to do a second layer to make sure that there's no spots missing. We don't want any cracks. If there's any spot that hasn't been covered by the couverture, our chocolate's going to break. So just make sure that they're nicely covered. I repeat the process twice. You can also repeat it as many times as necessary until you're sure that they're 100% coated. Once you've done that, I flip the mold onto the parchment paper and then put it in my refrigerator or freezer until the chocolate is solid. Once you take it out, there's going to be some chocolate chunks on the mold itself. Just scrape it. That'll make it easier once we're covering and popping it out. You don't want any hard chocolate on there. Our couverture that we made earlier is now set. It's really nice and solid. It should hold its shape when you put the spoon upside down. And we're going to start filling the mold. You can be pretty messy about it. Just what you want to do is make sure that the ganache, the filling, gets inside each and every cavity and is pretty much filling it up to the top. You want to leave a tiny little space at the top for what's going to be our bottom part of the bonbon. That's going to keep it all encapsulated. Once you've done this, you're set to cover. I'm going to make sure that my couverture is good to work with again, so melt it again 10 to 15 seconds at a time until it's smooth, and then pour a little layer over the top of the mold and distribute it to make sure it's over each and every single cavity. Once it's been in the fridge or freezer, you're just going to pop it upside down with a little bit of force, and all of your chocolates should pop right out. Perfect.
Now we're going to get started with the silicone molds, and I'm going to show you guys how to make truffles using a silicone mold. We have a really beautiful one here that has 3 different types of flowers, and I have some melted chocolate, so let's get going. Okay, so now what we're going to do is fill the molds with a little bit of melted chocolate. And I've used parchment paper underneath so I can kind of be messy, and I'm not going to lose any chocolate. So, and this is when it just starts getting really fun. I mean, playing with chocolate, making things with chocolate it's good for your soul. Really good for your soul. And it's almost like, for me, when I start making chocolate, it's almost like therapy. I just go into this place of peace that's just makes me feel really good. So now what I'm gonna do is, you have to wash your hands really well, obviously. I'm just gonna start making sure the chocolate is covering all sides of the mold. You wanna really get in there and cover it all. And you need to move kind of quickly here before the chocolate starts to set. So that's what I'm doing. I'm just gonna get these guys super filled. And then what we're gonna do is, once I have this done and filled, we're gonna turn it over and let the excess chocolate drip out. And the reason we're doing that is because we don't want a thick cap, we just want a thin cap of chocolate. So we're gonna turn it over and then we're gonna stick it in the fridge. Okay, so now we've gotten these out of the freezer, and what we're gonna do now is, you have to kind of just check, take a peek, and make sure, you know, that there's no spots. So you kind of put it up to the light, look, and if you see a little spot that still needs to be covered, go ahead and do that. Check it really well, and we're ready to fill now. Okay, so now we're gonna start filling. We're using a thick vegan ganache today, so we're using a spoon. If we're using a thinner ganache, which we do sometimes, we use a pastry bag. So, but with this, you can just kind of, the spoon, you just fill up the little crevices. And when we're done with this, what we're gonna do is pop it, we're gonna cover it and then pop it back in the fridge. And you can pretty much add anything else you want into these ganaches. This is a really nice triple chocolate ganache. You can add mezcal, you can add rum, you can add nuts, you can add vegan toffee, you can add dried fruit, you can add fresh fruit, spices. You can pretty much add anything you want to these truffles, whatever you like. Peanut butter, other nut butters. But yeah, this is really fun, and it's also really fun to get the whole family involved, to just make it a party, you know, make some chocolate martinis while you're at it. So anyway, I'm just gonna keep going, getting these guys all filled up, and show you when we're done. Okay, so now we're gonna cover these babies. I left a little bit of space for the couverture on the top. You wanna leave just a little bit, and all you need to do is cover, move the chocolate around, move the mold around a little bit, so you need to make sure you cover the entire top of the chocolate. Okay, so I'm done covering these now, and you can either pop them in the fridge or the freezer for about 5 minutes. You don't want them to get too cold, you just want them to set. Or you can also just leave them at room temperature for about an hour. So now I've gotten them out of the freezer. They're all set. They were in there for about 5 minutes, and I'm just gonna pop them out, turn them over, and then I'm gonna put this aside for a moment while I show you guys how to trim them. And it's really easy, just go around, trim the corners, make sure they look perfect. And then what I like to do is put them in little truffle wrappers here. And voila, Easter homemade vegan Easter chocolates.
All right, so now we're gonna show you guys how to make rolled truffles not using any molds. So let's get started.
All right, so now we are gonna make our rolled truffles. We're gonna use the same ganache that we used for all of our other versions, but this time I put it in the freezer, so it would be easier to work with on my hands since I'm gonna be making these little balls on my hands. So with the cold ganache, just start rolling. I used a small spoon, but you can really make them any size you'd like. So I'm just gonna keep on rolling, and then I'm gonna put these onto a plate and pop them back in the freezer for a couple of minutes before rolling them in the cacao nibs. This will just make sure that they hold their shape really well when they're being rolled. You can really roll them in anything that you'd like. I like cacao nibs, we really like dark chocolate, but you can roll them in coconut, you can roll them in nuts, you could roll them in sprinkles. It's completely up to you. And there you go. These are your rolled truffles ready to eat. You definitely want to keep these ones in the fridge since they're a little bit more sensitive. They don't have any solid couverture on the outside. And you want to plate them up and serve them to yourself or your loved ones. Enjoy.
Thank you guys for joining us today.
We hope that you'll try to make these at home yourself and enjoy them over Easter.
Happy Easter, everybody.